In this video, I am going to write a gherkin and explain you some of the very important gherkin anti-patterns that should be avoided. So by the end of this video, you should be in a position to write better gherkin, and as a result of it, you should be able to reduce the automation maintenance to a greater extent. Now this video is the preview video of the Cucumber BDD Masterclass course that is available on Udemy. It has got 17 hours of top-notch content that you don't want to miss out. So if you like this content, do check out the discounted link of the course from the description section below. With this link, you are going to get the course at 90% discount. So let us get started. So now let us write a standard gherkin for our first scenario. So if you remember, we did a live example mapping session, right? And we came up with all these examples. So let us write the gherkin for this example that says, when I add blue shoes to the cart, I see one blue shoes in the cart. And the context is, I am on the store page. So let us get back to the website. And here we are on the home page. So let us navigate to the store page by clicking the store menu option. Now on the store page, we got a product called blue shoes and there is a add to cart button. So let us click on it. Now you can see the button changes and there is a tick mark and we got a view cart link that will take us to the cart. And if I scroll up, it will show one product is added in the cart and I can navigate to the cart by clicking view cart button. So let me scroll down and click view cart link to navigate to the cart. So now here you can see this is the product name and this is the quantity. So we are going to fetch the product name and we are going to fetch the quantity and we are going to validate the product name is correct and the quantity is 1. We will not validate the price and image to keep it simple. But if you want, you can validate that as well. Not a problem. So now let me get back to the editor and here I have already created the scenario. So in order to save the time, I am just going to paste it. So this is our scenario. So you can see the feature is add to cart. This scenario is pretty long, but that describes what we are doing, right? Navigate to store, add a product to the cart, click view cart link to navigate to the cart and so on. Similarly for these steps, we have covered pretty much all these steps. That is, I am on the home page and I navigate to the store page by pressing store menu option. Then I click add to cart button next to the product blue shoes and so on. So I have done this intentionally because most of the time when we are learning Cucumber and BDD for the first time, we tend to create scenarios like this. So just read the complete scenario and then calculate the time that you took to read this scenario. By that time, let me create the step definitions. So with this, our gherkin is pretty much ready. Thank you for watching this lecture. So how much time you spent reading and understanding this scenario? I am sure you must have spent a lot of time. And that too when you are a technical person and you know about this scenario. Now imagine somebody from the business is going to read this scenario. the business is going to find it overwhelming. So, what is wrong with this scenario? There are multiple things going on. The first one is we are putting a lot of implementation details in this scenario. What if some of the implementation changes in the future? Then you are going to update this scenario, right? But ideally, this scenario should be updated only when there is a change in the requirement, not when the implementation changes. When the implementation changes, the underlying layer should change. For example, the step definition method, or let us say the page object, if you are using the page object model, or some internal Java object, or let us say the JSON object, and so on. But this scenario should not change when the implementation changes. And here we are navigating through the UI. We are pressing on the store menu option. We are clicking on the button, right? We are clicking on the view cart link. So we are interacting with the UI. We are just writing the steps that we are performing on the UI. The business would not be necessarily interested in this. What they would be interested is, what is the requirement? Are we representing the requirement in the form of Gherkin? And whether we are validating it, right? They don't care about the UI interaction as such. In some cases wherein the UI need to be validated, that can be done. For example, if you want to validate the add to cart button changes, for example, if you want to validate that a tick mark is shown, then you can write a separate scenario for that. You can just say, when I add a product to the cart, then a tick mark should be shown on the add to cart button, and you should end the scenario there itself. But in this case, this scenario is about adding a product to the cart and validating the product is added in the cart. That is validating the product name and the quantity. That's it. So there are other anti-patterns as well in this Gherkin, and we are going to have a look at all those one by one in the next few lectures. Thank you for watching the lecture. Welcome back. So this scenario has got a lot of incidental details. So incidental details is something that is not relevant to the scenario. For example, I am on the home page. This is not relevant to the scenario, right? The scenario should start from the store page. That is the context. The context is not that the user is on the home page. So this is an example of incidental detail that we can remove from the scenario. The other can be putting the add to cart text over here. That is again incidental. We are not checking the text on the button. We are checking the functionality. So we don't have to put this information over here. Similarly, the store text, the view cart link text, and then this then statement. I am navigated to the cart page. If you click on the view cart link, you are supposed to go to the cart page, right? You don't have to write it over here. It is incidental. Same for this when statement. When I fetch the product name and quantity. This is incidental. You don't have to mention it in this scenario, because when you are going to validate the product name while doing the assertion, you are going to fetch it. So that is something internal. That should not be part of the scenario, right? So all these incidental details can be avoided. Doing so can make the scenario simple, deterministic, and not overwhelming. Thank you for watching this lecture. Welcome back. So now this scenario is trying to do too many things. You can see we have got 4 then steps. Basically, we are doing 4 different assertions. Here for this step, we are checking the tick mark on the button. For this one, we are checking the view cart link. For this one, we are validating that we are navigating to the cart page. And then finally this one, we are validating the product name and the product quantity. Now just imagine that the tick mark is not shown on the button. What happens? The scenario is going to fail at this step and it is not going to validate any of this. But the main intention of this scenario was to validate the product is added in the cart. And we are not validating that because the intermediate step failed. This step is blocking the validation of this step. That is our main intention. So you see, the scenario don't have a single intention. It has got multiple intentions. It is not deterministic. It is doing a lot of things. So we should avoid this. This scenario should have one starting point and should have one ending point. Just in case, if you want to validate the text on the view cart link and the link itself, then you can create another scenario. That is absolutely fine. But the purpose of this particular scenario is not to validate the UI. The purpose of this scenario is to validate the functionality. That the product should be added to the cart. That's it. So it is a good practice to avoid using multiple then statements like this. You may have multiple assertions in the end like this, and this is absolutely fine. For UI automation, on a particular page, you can do multiple assertions. That is not a problem. For example, when we are on the cart page for our website, we can do multiple assertions over here. We can validate the product name, the price, quantity, the subtotal, the image, and this is absolutely fine. All these assertions can happen in the end. Okay, thank you for watching this lecture. Welcome back. So this scenario has got 9 steps. So this scenario can be termed as a lengthy scenario. The general thumb rule is to have 3 to 5 steps, not more than that. But I think even 5 to 8 step is fine depending upon the complexity of the scenario. But having 10 steps or 15 steps can make the scenario really lengthy. It will become unreadable. I have seen scenarios which are like 25 steps, 30 steps. That does not really make sense. Nobody is going to read those scenarios. So the general rule of thumb is, if you find that the scenario is exceeding 5 to 8 steps, then it is an indication that there could be multiple scenarios at play. So in that case, you might want to split the scenario into 2. And if the scenario is lengthy, then it will lose its expressive nature. It will not be a specification and the business would not be interested in it. So it is a good practice to limit the number of steps to 5 to 8. Thank you for watching this lecture. Welcome back. So in this scenario, I see a conjunction step over here. So basically, we have got 2 different steps. I am on the home page and I navigate to the store page clubbed as a single step. So we can avoid doing such things because we got a keyword for this very purpose. The AND keyword, we should use that. For example, over here, we can say, given I am on the home page and I navigate to the store page by pressing store menu option. Now the advantage of doing this is, with this, there is a higher possibility of reusing these steps. There could be a scenario that can simply reuse this step. I am on the home page, right? There could be actually multiple scenarios. So if you write this step like this, then you can reuse it. Same goes for this one, right? But if I club both the steps into one step, then I may not be able to reuse it because then it becomes very contextual to that scenario. So avoid using conjunction steps. Thank you for watching this lecture. Welcome back. So now this scenario has got a really bad scenario name. It is very lengthy and is not quite readable. So it is an example of bad scenario name. Similarly, there can be examples of bad feature name as well. So it is a good practice to give good name to feature, to scenario, to rule, and so on. So in this case, for the scenario, we can just write, let us say, add from store. That's it. The feature covers the add to cart part. The feature says add to cart, right? And scenario says add from store. This should be sufficient. Or you can even say add a product from store. This is also fine. Okay, the point is give a name that makes more sense, that is readable and is not complex. It should not be like you are writing a test case over there. If you want to put description, you have got the description section that you can use for this scenario. Same goes for the feature. You can put the user story over there, not a problem. Okay, it is called as narration. So you can narrate your feature over here and scenario over here, not a problem. But the name should be crisp and it should convey the message, what exactly we are validating and not how we are validating it. So one more thing that we are missing over here is the rule. If I go back to our mapped examples, you can see this scenario belongs to this rule. So what we can do is we can add a rule over here and we can call it as add from store. And if I go back to the mapped examples, this example validate that I can add one quantity of the product to the cart, and this one validate that I can add two quantities by pressing add to cart button again. So what we can do is we can change this scenario to basically add one quantity to the cart. So with this, it is always a good practice to include the business rules, to include the narrative section for feature, rule, scenario, and to give good names to scenario, rule, as well as feature. Thank you for watching this lecture. Welcome back. So in the last few lectures, we discussed about some of the important anti-patterns that we can avoid while writing Gherkin. So why are we doing this? We can still be fine by writing these scenarios like this, right? See, the thing is, for the test automation, one of the most important factor that can make or break your automation is the maintenance. Writing the code is not a problem. You can write as many code as you want. But maintaining the code is a real challenge. Practically, the application will undergo a lot of changes. In some projects, that can happen within a day. So you should be prepared for that. So if you write a scenario that changes only when requirement changes and not when implementation changes, then such scenarios can have very less maintenance. But if you write a scenario in this manner that can change for every minor UI change, then it will be a maintenance nightmare. Right now, I have just created one scenario. You may end up creating 100 scenarios or 200 scenarios. Imagine the kind of maintenance that you are going to do if something changes in the UI. And this is a real problem. I have seen this happening in a lot of projects. In the end, the automation engineer just gives up on automation. And so it is very important that we avoid the anti-patterns. The second important thing is, especially in case of Cucumber, is that the steps should be reusable. If these steps are not reusable, there will be a lot of duplication. If this is not taken care of, then you may feel that these steps are nothing but unnecessary wrappers on top of the glue code. I have seen a lot of people getting frustrated with Cucumber because they think that these steps are nothing but unnecessary wrappers on top of the glue code. And they feel so because they are not reusing their steps. These steps should be kept bare minimum. And the third most important aspect is the readability of the scenarios. Actually, this is very important because in the end, it is the business that is going to read these scenarios, right? So the scenarios should be expressive. The scenarios should represent the specifications and not test cases. The scenarios should be short. Okay, and in the end, if you take care of all these things, then there will be an increase in the collaboration in the team. The dev, QA and the business analyst or the product owner, they can work together, they can collaborate because the scenarios will be understood by all of them. And I do understand that it may not be possible to create a perfect scenario, and it is absolutely fine. There will be iterations. In the first attempt, it may not be perfect. It may be only 50% of what it should be. But then there can be an iteration wherein you can move it to 80%. Then in the next iteration, you can move it to 90%, and that is fine. And if you are not able to follow all the good practices, that is also fine. I can understand. Not everything is in our control, but whatever is in our control, we should be able to implement it properly. I have seen that many teams do not really follow the BDD practices of discovery workshop. They do not do any kind of collaboration, but still they use Cucumber to automate the test cases. So practically that is also fine, but in that case too, try to follow as many good practices as you can. Thank you for watching this lecture.